Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. Manchester United continue their winning ways under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, this time going to Wembley and defeating Spurs. How did they do it? Where did Spurs go wrong? Don't worry, here at the interviews, we've got you covered. So on this edition of the interviews, we're going to break down how United beat Spurs. So before we get into today's video, don't forget to give our video a thumbs up if you do enjoy it. The bell below does give you daily notifications regarding our organic, unfiltered soccer/footy analysis. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. In today's video, we're going to break down how both sides look to approach the game, see what tactical changes United made to ensure that they were the better side in the first half and went into halftime up 1-0. Then move to the second half, see how Pochettino looked to change the game and why they failed to rescue a point. But first, let's look to the starting lineups. We look at Spurs, no real surprises, 4-4-2 diamond. Kane and Son ahead of Dele Alli. Out in the shuttling roles, they went with Eriksen and Sissoko with Harry Winks at the base. Then we moved to United. Were they a 4-1-3-2? Were they a 4-3-1-2? It did look like it was some sort of diamond to combat with Spurs. Rashford and Martial up front, Lingard just in behind them. They had Pogba and Herrera shuttling, and they had Matic sitting just ahead of the back four. So now let's look to the first half, see how United's tactical changes stopped Spurs from getting control of the game and why United went into halftime up 1-0. So when we look at the opening half between United and Spurs, the big onus was on United to see how they'd be able to cope against the Spurs side, a side that's able to attack and defend simultaneously. They haven't faced that threat under Solskjaer yet. This was a real test, and Solskjaer offered a surprise that really did give Spurs a bit of a shake. They did move into more of a 4-3-1-2. It did sometimes look like a 4-1-3-2. Basically what we have here is we have Rashford and we have Martial, and they weren't really looking to press the center backs unless they got them into good positions where everyone was pushed forward and they were able to swarm. They looked to try and cut off passes to Trippier and to Davies. They had Winks, and what happened here was that Winks was pressed by Lingard, and that was his job to sit there. And then when you look at the rest, you have a midfield battle there. That was key. You had over here with Eriksen, Herrera was pressing him. Sissoko against Pogba, Ali and Matic to ensure that nothing really goes on there. And if they somehow got the balls out to the wider players in Trippier and Davies, they could have Young and they could have Luke Shaw push forward to them there. That was how United wanted to go about it. They were able to ensure that Spurs weren't able to really create chances. When they looked to press from deeper positions, it was the same thing. You have the center backs pushed out, Martial and Rashford to be in front of them. You would have Winks, and then you would have Lingard stepping to him. Even when Sissoko stepped and tried to drop off, we saw this on one occasion where the ball got shifted over to Sissoko, and Lingard just instantly harried him. And when he shifted the ball over to Trippier, you would have Pogba step in, because that's the role of that United had in that sense. The shuttlers were still responsible for pushing out to the wider players in the fullbacks that wanted to push forward at every opportunity, but that was how United were set up. That's how they went about their business. It made sense in this regard, because what Spurs often do is that they try to get the fullbacks forward, and we saw this against Chelsea in their Carabao Cup semi-final first leg. And what happened there was that we had Trippier pushed out into a more advanced position, and Sissoko would drop off into this space right here to ensure that Trippier had protection so that he could push forward. That's fine. That makes sense. On the opposite side, what we saw in that first leg against Chelsea was that when they pushed Rose into that position, we would have Eriksen move centrally and drop off into that space here. We didn't really see that too often, and that's kind of where Spurs did get caught, but that's what they wanted to do there. But when you do that and you push the center backs forward trying to get on the ball, they were allowed time, which was a bit of a risk from United because they are capable of playing long balls or playing balls out to the wider areas in advanced positions. The thing is, when you have Davies and you have Trippier in that position, you do leave space for Rashford and Martial to counter into. When you look at this United side, it's all it does really epitomize is pace. Pace in the wider areas, Pogba able to push forward, Lingard also capable of breaking, and that was one of the big warning signs that did occur. Spurs did the same thing. They did press from the front when United tried to build out there, and they had the 3v3 battle, Kane and Son on the center backs, Ali on Matic, and they could easily press forward from that sense. But this was more about United and how they were able to cope with Spurs' threat. They knew that if they do play a narrow diamond, there will be me space out in the wider areas for them to exploit, based on the fact that Sissoko and Eriksen are both tasked with stepping out to the wider players in Luke Shaw and Ashley Young to close them down. As time goes on, when you're stuck in that narrow position, there's always space and gaps there. So that is why Rashford and Martial played those roles. That's what Solskjaer did line them up for, and it made sense. When you think about the chances that Spurs did create in that first half, not many. Only 3 really came to mind. They didn't really test David De Gea in the first half. One stemming from Winks finally getting free to play the ball, step forward in the left channel. He plays it to Eriksen, who instantly clips the ball into the left channel in between Jones and Lindelof. And we saw Son run off Jones and push into that space. He's able to run at Lindelof and shrug off Young. And what happens there is that Matic steps forward, steps towards the ball. Jones is ball watching. Young kind of retreats, but he's able to play a reverse ball into the space for Winks, who ended up running from half, bypassing Matic and running in behind Jones to get the ball in left half space, but he can only guide his effort inches wide of the far post. He should force De Gea into a save. He doesn't. The other 2 chances did stem from Alderweireld being able to step forward, and this is something that Spurs did hit Chelsea with when they were able to push him forward and connect with Kane. On this situation, what we did see is Kane drift out into that left channel to pull out Lindelof, but he can only fire a ball into the box that Young was able to cover and ensure that nothing led to that. The other opportunity saw him clip the ball in between Young and Lindelof for Dele Alli, but he can only nod his effort wide. So that being said, you look at how Spurs look to approach the game, you look at how United look to approach the game. The only one thing we could say here is that Spurs possibly missed Eric Dyer here, based off the fact that with Dyer, he could drop in, form a 3-man back line. He's comfortable in that zone. Winks was always a bit higher, and even though when he drifted into that space, Spurs weren't really shifted into a back 3 fully. But what would happen there is that if you dropped off and you shifted to a back 3, you could push those players higher. With Dyer there, you could have Vertonghen shift out, you can have Alderweireld shift out, and know that Dyer could play in that center back role. We didn't have that here, and that perhaps is what leads to how United were able to kill off the game in the first half, or not kill off the game, but create several quality chances. So now let's get to that and see how United flustered Spurs in the first half. So when we look at United's chances against Spurs, it all followed a similar template. Direct play out into the wider channels because the fullbacks were so high. But first, let's get to one of the opening chances. Eriksen from deep clips the ball into the box and is cleared into the path of Pogba, who's able to pick it up and run at Winks and run at Eriksen before sliding the ball out to Martial. And now it's more of a 2v2 with Lingard breaking in, so it's a 3v2. Lingard makes the run across Vertonghen. You have Rashford coming across the center back. Martial instantly plays it into him, and Rashford's first touch drags out Vertonghen, but he can only guide his shot over the net. It was a warning sign. From a simple clearance, United were able to break forward. That's an issue for Spurs. Shortly after that, from a corner kick, we had Matic ping out the ball as a 2v2. Lingard's able to just peel off Winks, who misjudged it, run at goal. What happens is as he turns and he's starting to run, he sees Martial peeling off Sissoko, clips it over Sissoko for Martial, but his first touch was poor, and that kind of halted the play there. Another chance that is created does see Trippier have a poor touch from a De Gea punt, and it falls to Pogba, who's able to push the ball around him, and when he does push the ball around him, he slides the ball out to Martial, who goes 1v1 on Alderweireld, who able to beat him for pace. That is what United wanted, and he pulls out to the wide area and he forces Lloris into a kick save that should have probably went in. Shortly after that, when Spurs pushing forward, Alderweireld's poked ball, trying to find a teammate in United's half, is cleared by Herrera, and when it's cleared by Herrera, it does fall out to Rashford in that left channel, in that right channel again. But who isn't there? It's Davies who's not there. Eriksen and Winks track it very well. They're able to force him out of position, but Spurs shouldn't be even caught out in that position. Eventually, it does lead to Martial curling an effort over the net, but there was a great example of United's movement. We'll get to that right now. The ball is shifted out to Luke Shaw. What happens is that Sissoko is forced to step to him. So when Sissoko steps to him, we see Rashford drop off, and he pulls out Trippier. We see Lingard drop off and he pulls out Toby. And with all that happening, Pogba remained high. And with Toby pulled out of position, what we do see is Pogba make the run in behind Alderweireld and in behind Trippier to drag out Vertonghen, and Shaw clips the ball into him. But as you could see, they're able to pull Spurs out of position and then have a runner break in. We saw Rashford, we saw Lingard make that drop off, and then you see Pogba making that dart into space. Spurs' issues did continue as the half wore on because Sissoko was forced to leave the game. Lamela came on. With Lamela coming on, he went to the number 10 role. They pushed out Ali to the left. They pushed out Eriksen to the right. To no coincidence, United did convert their opening goal, or the game-winning goal, shortly after that. And it again stems through Trippier, who is pressed by Martial, and he tries to play a squared ball across the center of the pitch, but it falls to Lingard, who backs heels it to Pogba, but who's high again? It's Davies. Rashford instantly making that run. Vertonghen is caught out. Pogba smashes it into that channel. Rashford's able to pick it up. Vertonghen's chasing him, trying to recover. So he's able to cut wide and then fire a low shot past Lloris. When you really look at it and you see how they're able to get their chances, you have Trippier making mistakes. You have Davies high. This is one of the reasons why I said perhaps Dyer should have been in there. Because if Dyer's there in that build up to the goal, Vertonghen's already in that space, so he doesn't have to recover. And it forces Rashford to run at him from a head start, opposed to being a few yards ahead and then breaking forward. Or vice versa. Even if he beats him, you have Dyer who could shift over while Spurs' players retreat. That didn't happen here. And the other option is that if Winks isn't that player, you have Davies sit deeper. He wasn't sitting deeper. He was constantly pushing high. And like Spurs had Sissoko dropping off for Trippier in that channel, they didn't have anyone else there. So when Davies pushed forward and Eriksen was trying to create from an advanced position, there was ample space for United to break into, and they finally punished Spurs. So with that being said, that was how United controlled the first half. That's how they created the better chances. So now let's get to the second half, see what changes Pochettino made and how United were able to hold on. The second half saw Pochettino move to a 4-2-3-1, and instantly we saw a change. What happened was that Eriksen dropped deeper with Winks, and it allowed Eriksen to find the ball in pockets of spaces because Lingard was unable to mark both of those two players. What also happened was that Davies stayed deeper, so now there was no threat down that flank. And on the left-hand side, they had Son holding the width, they had Lamela pulling out Shaw, and then they had Trippier still high with Ali sitting ahead of Matic still. What we saw in the earlier stages, Kane dropping off, playing the ball, dropping off to get the ball, playing it out to Son, who was able to cut past Lindelof and Young to drag a shot wide. Lamela's impact was key because he also allowed that if Shaw wasn't sticking with him and he ensured that he kept his position, there was an overload in midfield. We saw two chances in quick succession, where the first one, Eriksen was able to pick up the ball from Alderweireld between Pogba and Lingard, and he was able to instantly play in Lamela between the lines. And when he found Lamela between the lines, Lamela was able to poke it into Ali, who then found Kane running off Jones, and Kane should have scored, but De Gea made a big save. Another opportunity saw the ball shifted out to Davies. He was pressed by Lingard, and we had Son close by Herrera, and the ball was then played to Kane dropping off, and he found, again, Lamela tucking into that central role between the lines. Combination between Ali and a combination between Kane, so the ball switched out to Trippier. That cross led to Ali climbing over Matic and nodding an effort on goal that, again, you expect Ali to score, but it was a comfortable save for De Gea. That was how they were going about their business in the opening half. Quick, intricate passes in central areas. They had the width from Trippier. What ended up happening was that United did also have chances. A lot of them stemmed through Herrera in a deeper role. First, his ability to play across out to Ashley Young, diagonal out to Ashley Young, and Young found Pogba breaking into the box, and he nodded an effort at Lloris. We saw another opportunity where Herrera was able to bypass Winks and Eriksen to play the ball into Pogba, who is now ahead of the back four. He ran at them. His initial shot was blocked by Alderweireld, but he was able to push Eriksen out of the way and clip an effort on goal that Lloris pushed over. He had one more opportunity that stemmed from a left-sided combination between Martial and Lingard that eventually saw Pogba break towards the box and fire a shot at Lloris. With that being said, United were struggling in the sense that Trippier was getting forward based off Lamela's movement, and Martial wasn't tracking the run, so they brought on Lukaku to offer a physical presence up front that could break into the channels, hold up the ball, and allow United to push forward because they were dropping off a bit too deep. With that being said, Spurs were still creating chances. We saw Vertonghen push forward and play a ball in between Lukaku and Lingard. Lingard moving to the right, Rashford to the left for Eriksen, who was able to locate Ali spinning off Young and Lindelof. He was able to bring the ball down and wrap it across Lindelof, but again, he fires a shot on goal that he possibly should have done better, and De Gea was able to push it away. Then Spurs turned to Llorente, pushed Kane a bit deeper. What happened is that Ali moved to midfield, and Son and Lamela swapped flanks. With that being said, Llorente offered an aerial threat, 2 quality chances from Spurs, going a bit more direct. Ali clipping it out into the box. Llorente was able to peel off Shaw, nod it into Kane ahead of the center backs, and his first touch takes him away from them, but he fired a shot at De Gea. De Gea made another good save that he should have made. Then we get to the final chance. Again, Trippier having an impact. No one closing him down tight enough. Cross into the box. Llorente is able to hold off Young, but he fires a tame effort at goal. But when we break things down, United shaped surprise Spurs. They had Rashford and Martial pushing out into those channels with the fullback pushing forward, and they were able to go man for man against Spurs in midfield, not allow them space, and Spurs struggled to create chances. Following Pochettino's change, they were a bit more threatening, but David De Gea was on his toes, and you could say that Spurs' finishing should have been better. But let me know what you guys think. Can United finish in the top 4? Is Spurs guaranteed a spot in that top 4? Are they the 3rd best side in England? Meet me in the comments below. Don't forget I upload videos every day, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And that was your daily dose of the interviews.